So, hey guys, today we're going to talk about Kashtira a little bit. I don't know. A lot of people just like to complain for pretty much no reason. Like, look how hit Kashtira is right now. If we just look at Kashmir, let's go ahead and do this. So, if we put like every single cache name that we have, like, let's even put in extra copies of Scared Wild Kashtira. This is what you're looking at. And I guess Kashtira Theosis kind of helps. But just for example, we're going to fill up on a bunch of garnets now. So you can just pretend all of these vanillas or whatever are just going to be non-engine. This is what the deck looks like, right? So this is how much engine you can actually run. Like it's about half, and then some garnets. So notably, all the traps are garnets. So it's about 50-50 engine, non-engine. And if we just do this, oh, we got full engine. So playable because raid soft, I guess, mostly. And then here, we have Unicorn, your Cash Ogre, and then Unicorn again. And then, yeah, it has alright-ish consistency, but you can always end up with hands like this, so we only have Tier Cash and nothing else, which sucks. Ogre, nothing else. And now we have Unicorn again, and Theosis, a good hand, right? But even in some of the earlier hands, you might notice that our hand dies to like literally one piece of interruption, and it's not like something we can play around. We can't even bait it with our hand. It's like pretty bad. Like this hand, looks pretty cracked. We have Unicorn, Rise Heart, and Tier Cash. But the only card this plays around is Ghost Ogre. Yeah, in case like we activate Kashtira Unicorn and we get ogred and this unicorn gets destroyed, we can special summon this unicorn and then Theosis target unicorn. Aside from that, I guess we can special summon Tier Cash, assuming that this was just another like air eater or something. We could special summon Tier Cash by banishing our Cash Unicorn and then special summoning Rise Heart, and then I don't know. From there, it's like, where do we go from there? Um, I guess we might have either Theosis or Birth if we got to resolve Unicorn, but if it just gets removed off the field, yeah, a bit awkward, right? If it gets like impermed, I guess we can still end on Rise Heart by summoning these guys. Well, actually, no, we can't. Assuming we don't have the second Unicorn, I don't think we, like, if this gets impermed, we can barely end on a Rise Heart because of Tier Cash. But actually, not really, because Rise Heart would be the only other tier name in our, or not tier name, cash name in our hand. So then, if we were to have to banish this, we can just end on Shingra Era, which gets us essentially nowhere. Cool. So, right now, Cash is just in whatever spot, pretty mid. But anyways, I've seen a lot of people just in general, so complaining about Kashtira Unicorn. So that's a name of all time. Anyway, so Kashtira Unicorn has this interesting effect here. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, except during the damage step, you can look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish one monster from it face down. So this effect here, people are complaining like, oh, my opponent is banishing cards from my extra deck face down, and because they are doing so, it is just so bad for me. Well, have I got news for you? So there are actually a lot more cards than Unicorn that actually look at your opponent's extra deck and rip extra deck cards, and even among like the more or less like well, extra deck ripping cards, they all have this one flaw, like pretty bad flaw. It's called the, oh, but what if you don't go first? Then this is just a 2.5k guy, essentially. Like, even if you banish something from your opponent's extra deck, probably doesn't super matter. Like, If your deck needs to play something like an Axis Code to get lethal, I guess that's when it sucks. Woe is me. But, you know, Kashtira Unicorn just is only going to really be doing this going first. It's much less impactful when this happens going second, so, you know, just whatever. And even among the cards that actually look at your opponent's extra deck and removes cards from it, Kashtira Unicorn is not the worst one. There is much worse that can happen on the first turn. So we'll start with the most obvious one, McKnight. Scars. Resolve Scars. Now, not only do you have no extra deck, but also your entire hand is in the graveyard. Sure hope you can play like some Yu-Gi-Oh after that happens, because surely you can, right? And then following Scars, we have let's see, Dogmatic Albazoa. For every 2 cards in your extra deck, send 1 card from your hand or extra deck to the graveyard. So assuming you have 15 cards in your extra deck, you should have 14, assuming you're not going first. So then you have to send half of that, which would be 7 cards from your hand or extra deck to the graveyard. This one is actually arguably just the worst version of Scar. So not a whole lot I would say about this. But, you know, it's a card. If it sure exists, it's a real card. Yeah. And you don't get to choose. Your opponent gets to choose, so a bit awkward on that. If your opponent is playing like Gamma, that helps a little bit because you essentially send Gamma as one of the sends, so you only have to send 6 cards, and then you get to put back 1 card, so you're sending 5 cards, so that's a little bit more manageable than 7. And hand cards, if really necessary, you could send those as well. And okay, following these guys, you know, it could be that much worse, right? So these guys are already, so for example, World Legacy Scars requires like specific setup. Albazoa as well requires fairly specific setup. I believe they're both like 2-ish card combos, so they're not like the worst thing in the world because you can also interrupt them. So that's all right. And also going second, these cards don't really do much. But then we look at Dragunity Knight Trident, and it's like, huh, soft ones per turn. You can send up to 3 cards you control to the graveyard, look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you send an equal number of cards from there to the graveyard. So you're telling me we can Trident here, and then we can send cards our opponent controls. Well, not our opponent controls. Send our opponent's extra deck cards from the deck to the graveyard, and you choose. Well, isn't that brutal? So I'll give you guys a hint. This card isn't as hard to summon as it looks, so you require a Dragon Tuner and a non-tuner Winged Beast monster. Oh, whoops. No, you don't. Yo, what's this lovely effect? Or 1 level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro from your extra deck? Yo, wait a second. What level was Trident? 7. So if you summon it with this, you already have a Tzolk'in to send just for Trident already. So, interesting. And also, this is only a rare card, and this is just cheating it with Tzolk'in. If you were actually focused on summoning Trident, you might notice something else interesting about this card. Huh, once per turn, as in not hard once per turn. The only small caveat to this card, though, I guess, is of course, you have to send cards you control to the graveyard to actually look at your opponent's extra deck. But, you know, just throwing this out there. Atlantis. I wonder what Atlantis might do. Special summon a monster again. So like, but what if I don't know, were to resummon this a different way? how many ways could possibly exist to resummon Trident? It could not possibly be that many ways, right? Just even generically and all that, right? Like, how many ways could possibly exist for you to like Trident your opponent, right? Just could not be that many ways, right? Like just how many ways could possibly exist? Then we have the pend effect on this. Target one. Dragon Fusion Synchro or XYZ monster in your graveyard. Destroy this card, and if you use special summon that target. Oh, look, would you look at this? A Dragon Synchro. So, this copies the effect. This can cheat it. This can special it back. This can special summon it back after banishing it, resetting it. And this isn't even hard once per turn, is it? No, no, it is not. But yeah, Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon can also special summon it back. Interesting. Very, very intriguing. Surely the tools to just use this one don't exist, but uh, Trident doesn't super matter even. It's up to 3, but you could easily just send 2, and 2 is like fairly devastating to a good amount of decks, but 3 can be super devastating to a lot of decks, right? So yeah, could be pretty brutal, honestly, what Trident can do. But you know what? Could be worse. Uh, we have True King Lithosagum, so even more like worse to deal with than arguably a good amount of these. But we have True King Lithosagum. So if this card is in your hand, you can destroy 2 other monsters in your hand and or face up field, including an Earth monster, and if you do, special summon this card. And if you do that, and both destroyed monsters were Earth, you can also look at your opponent's extra deck and banish up to 3 monsters from it with different names. If this card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 non-Earth farm monster from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of True King Lithosagum, the disaster, once per turn. So let me name some cards I would maybe banish from Snake Eye. Let's go with probably, I don't know, let's say Promethean Princess, and then go banish, I don't know, Access Code, Unicorn, just something like that. Or just Zeus might banish that instead if it is being run. Could banish Underworld Goddess as well, so that if I have a Towers, or just a big enough monster, you could just never have an out to it. So, yeah, that just works, you know? And, the destroyed 2 other monsters in your hand and or face of field might look like detrimental, but noticeably with, like, Baby Cerosaurus and also Petit Ranodon, those are super good targets for a True King Lithosagum. So this combos really well with Dino, so yeah, this is actually pretty consistent, just in general. In fact, it's probably more consistently able to be resolved than Unicorn because you need your opponent to trigger the Unicorn. So there is that. The biggest, most annoying thing about Unicorn being played in other decks is it's actually somewhat hard to tell like what is being like played by your opponent. Because if this is in a non-cash deck, the only target that they will typically try to add is going to be Kashtira Birth. And if they use Kashtira Birth, they're just going to use it to special summon back Unicorn once they like link it off or synchro with it, just whatever. They're just going to sit on a Unicorn essentially for next turn. So, you know, just send Unicorn, summon it back, pass turn, and then you do something else in between that. Whatever. But of course, like if Kashtira Unicorn is special summoned and it's actually a cash player playing it, then we have Kashtira Unicorn effect, add Theosis, special summoning Fenrir, and then essentially we make a Rysart, right? So a Rysart passed. Not the best situation to be in, but you know, that is indeed what happens. So in this situation, it's pretty sketchy. Like if you have Imperm, you could Imperm Unicorn, but I guess the smart play that you're forced to do now, well, which you can really get punished for, if the cash player goes for the Shangri-Ira line, it's much worse for you, but just in general now, the better play is probably going to be to hold your imperm the whole time. The only reason you might not is because birth might actually hurt you. Like notably, if you're playing branded, birth is pretty dangerous to an extent. It can sometimes be played around, but in general, you're risking your branded fusion getting banished face down if birth is here alongside unicorn. So that can be a little troublesome. But yeah, now let's go over some of the even worse options than like the ones I showed here, right? Even worse than Trident. Might as well while we are here. So we have rockets. If we go ahead and go to the rocket cards, let's see if I can find it. Not here. Okay. So if we search Oral, it should show up, I think, right? Yeah. Okay, so we have Bayonet Punisher. Apply these effects in sequence depending on the types of Oral monsters you control and in your graveyard. If you control a monster with 3000 or more attack, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. If you have a fusion monster, you can banish, or specifically a Boral fusion monster, you can banish one monster your opponent controls. So notably, this is non-target banish. If you have Synchro, you can banish 3 random face-down cards from your opponent's extra deck, face up. So that's funny. XYZ, banish 1 spell trap your opponent controls, also non-targeting. Link, banish up to 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard, also non-targeting. Funny, but yeah, this just banishes 3 random face-down cards from your opponent's extra deck. So it's much worse than the other ones because here you're praying, pretty much. This one you get to choose. It has to be different names though. This one you get to choose as well. Doesn't need to be different names. So if we just base it around just the monster's effects, Trident is a little bit better. But I guess you can also send Trident to the graveyard for Trident effect and then summon back Trident. Intriguing. But then we have, of course, like King Lithosagum, which is a little bit better in the context that if it pops babies, then you can summon like Soul Eating Oviraptor and Scrap Raptor, right? And that's just combo alongside ripping 3 cards from your opponent's extra deck. So you can make the game state pretty damn unplayable. Notably, for example, if your opponent has no kaijus in main deck and you bash Underworld Goddess, and then were to make like a 4K arrival, that thing is not going anywhere. Probably, right? I mean, even if they're running like Underworld Goddess and Avramax, you just banish both. Easy. And then from here, let's see. We also have one more option that's pretty bad. Zaborg, the Mega Monarch. So the only good part about this is that it is, I guess, well, how would I describe Zaborg? Kind of awkward, really. So I guess I'll just read the effect. Alright. You can tribute summon this card by attributing 1 tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summoned, target 1 monster on the field, destroy it. Then if it was a light monster, both players send as many cards as possible from the extra deck to the graveyard, but not more than the original level/rank of that destroyed monster. If this card was tribute summoned by attributing a light monster, add this additional effect. You choose the cards your opponent sends to the graveyard. So if it wasn't a light monster, your opponent gets to choose. But also the amount of cards it requires to resolve Zaborg, it just looks completely dumb. I have no idea how you actually resolve Zaborg, but hey, this forces your opponent's like extra deck out, so that for sure is the thing. I mean, I don't think you'd resolve this over a Scars or like Albazoa, since those are much easier to resolve, so no idea about this one, Chief. Oh, but just to throw this out there, the funny thing about if you were to try to resolve Albazoa is that Blackwing actually can just send copies of Blackwing Dragon alongside Boreas Storm to make Blackwinged Assault Dragon. So that's pretty humorous because we can just banish the cards from the graveyard, and then we just get a few 3.2k beaters all of a sudden. So that this is just peak right here. Hilarious. 10 out of 10. But yeah, just in general. There are a lot of cards here, and all of these are just pretty gimmicky in the sense that they're only strong going first. And the good thing right now is most of these are like not that accessible, even like among you, like cards like uh the banish cards. They're still not accessible. Like notably, Unicorn is not that accessible either. So this is probably the least accessible one to an extent. Between this and Bayonet Punisher, they're not like that far off, honestly. So Bayonet Punisher, of course, you can't really search. You have to open and then you have to make your warload guys with Kashtira Unicorn. This will still require you to attack your opponent, but that's probably not going to happen, honestly. And by the time you can attack your opponent, it's no longer relevant. But aside from that, you require your opponent to activate some effect to trigger Unicorn. Even with something like a Maxi, your opponent can just drop Maxi in standby phase, and that plays around the Unicorn banish if they care about that. And also special summon Unicorn. If you do intend to do that, they'll just get a draw off of Maxi regardless. So yeah, not that insane. The only annoying thing about this, honestly, is like if you're considering the deck that's playing it to be Snake Eye, they'll probably summon Load Savage with this because this is just a really good level for that. And then probably summon back, make Formula, and then they can even leave Formula on the field to synchro with Warlord Savage. Next turn to make Baron, that's an option. They can also make like Spray Elf with the Formula if they want like some targeting protection. So that's not that big of a deal, honestly, to me. They do summon back the Unicorn, but they'll probably only banish one card from your extra deck. It's only annoying in the sense that it might like stop with Zeus or something, but aside from that, I think you're probably going to be fine, honestly. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.